Signalis
is an indie game.
Just kidding. Signalis is a survival horror indie game that prides itself on its narrative and deep story. Don't worry, I won't spoil it for you.
There are 3 endings. Leave, where else your can't promise to refuse the memory with Arian. Doesn't recognize your partner, and Elster rests next to her instead of killing her in front of her. Arian thanks Elster to keep her promise and the 2 got together. There's also a secret ending. The secret ending shows many LSD are sacrificing themselves, leaving Elster and Arian dancing together. They do much.
Now that the snooze fest is out of the way, let's get to the review. Signalis is a survival horror indie game in which you play as an anime avatar Twitter loser self-insert depression anime girl. The main gameplay of Signalis is running back between rooms, reading cards, and doing baby puzzles. The developers of this game knew exactly what they were doing when they made these baby puzzles. The so-called gamers that play this game are 30-year-old infantile man-children who are still seething at the fact that Resident Evil 4 even exists at all. I think they're just upset that they didn't get the same Resident Evil game released over and over again for all of eternity, which is ironic considering games like Call of Duty received criticism for not ever evolving or changing their gameplay plan. Speaking of never evolving, Signalis offers nothing new to the genre. All of its unique mechanics are stolen or watered down versions of other mechanics from other survival horror entries. For example, enemies which respawn after being killed and using things such as the flare are both mechanics which were directly taken from the RE1 remake. Respawning enemies is a really frustrating feature to deal with. Survival horror is resource management based, and when you spend your scarce resources to take down an enemy only for them to come back up after returning to the room, it makes you wonder why you even bothered wasting your ammo to kill them in the first place instead of simply just running away. Running away is both easier and saves resources. There's another enemy which messes with your perception. Fake Signalis gamers won't remember this, but a game called Eternal Darkness did this with a mechanic called Sanity, and the more your sanity meter drained, the more insane your character would become, and it would do things to mess with the player outside of the game, such as making them think that their TV's turned off or their save files are being deleted. Signalis developers did not have the creativity nor the balls to do something like this, and this was done over 15 years ago on the GameCube. More than anything, the gameplay is just boring. There's a reason why survival horror as a genre has been dead. You run back and forth between rooms solving baby puzzles, quote-unquote managing your inventory, getting annoyed that you couldn't pick an item up because your inventory is full, so you run back to the loot crate, store your item in the chest, and then go back and pick up the item that you needed. Inventory management, if you can call it that, always feels like doing chores. There's quite an easy solution that was discovered over 20 years ago. If we simply store our essential items and keycards which are necessary for progression in a different type of inventory, then you can maintain a gameplay flow without having to run back to the storage room and place your ammo that you don't want to waste in the storage so you can actually pick up the essential item that you need to progress in the game. This does not ruin any type of resource scarcity, as the resource in and of itself is already scarce. It just saves time from running back and forth between storage. Signalis also follows the trend that other indie games have followed, where it looks like pixel shit slop that copies what they think old games look like. Older games tried their hardest to push the hardware to its limits. Indie games mimic this by intentionally making their games look like shit. Not to mention that this game is blatantly plagiarizing Ghost in the Shell. There's no atmosphere, it's just a shitty faked analog aesthetic. It's really, really boring. If you couldn't tell how gay the story sounded by the initial entry, this story's some of the gayest shit you'll ever hear. It's about lesbian anime girls in space. Who fucking cares? There's a whole generation of sexually confused speedrunners out there that think that this is deep and has meaning, but guess what? It's cookie cutter. Every indie game is doing this. And guess what? The fact that 90% of the story exposition is written in notes, guess what? That's bad. Have you ever heard of show, don't tell? There's a reason why this genre failed. It's because it fails to capture its audience's attention. The abstract psychological themes this game tries to tackle makes it come off as pretentious instead of interesting. No, I don't want to play a game about depression. No, I don't want to play another indie game about depression. It's not cool, it's not unique, and it's been done 1,000 times before. We should take all of these gay, lesbian anime girls and blast them all to planet Saturn where they belong. That way they can practice their speedrunning roots in peace. This game also had 8 years of development. It began development in 2014 and released in 2022. You'd think that with all that development time that they'd be able to come up with some ideas other than blatant nostalgia bait. If you think I'm wrong, don't worry. Your anger will subside along with everybody else's when a year from now you've all forgotten this game and the indie slop conveyor belt farts out another gay depression game. Signalis gets a 2 out of 10. It fucking sucks.
I totally want to suck some black cock. Just saying. I'm so high.